Well, our guest today is described by her fan base as Lana Del Rey with more angst. Her debut album, The Baby, just came out and is getting rave reviews. Let's officially welcome Samia to our virtual studio today. Samia, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Congratulations on your debut album, The Baby. What's it like to finally get it out there and release it? I imagine it's been a few years of work.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's partially a huge relief. I was super nervous to do it because it was 2 years of work, and it was the first intentional, body of work that I've ever put out. It's the first thing that I wrote with the thesis in mind. So I'm just excited to finally be able to talk about it with people and connect with people over it.
Was it what you expected? I'd imagine you didn't expect to release it during these times, but anything that surprised you about finally getting the record out there?
I've never put out an album before, so the whole thing was going to be new no matter what. The circumstances are definitely weird. Everything is weird right now. But I think it's just best case scenario, like hearing that it resonated with people and hearing, people, meeting new people and hearing their personal stories that, this connected with them for some reason. And yeah, it's just that part is the most exciting to me.
It's got to be cool to see it affect people. Let's go back a little bit to kind of get to know you more about your background. When did you start singing and performing?
I grew up singing and performing. My family is in entertainment, and they always encouraged, music and around the house. And I grew up listening to musical theater soundtracks. But I went to rock band camp every summer and fell in love with Nirvana and Elliott Smith and that kind of songwriting. So that was sort of where I
was there a moment when you knew that songwriting and music was what you wanted to do as a career?
I think the first time I performed live in that setting with a little rock band, and that was the moment for me.
You mentioned Nirvana, and were there other artists that inspired you along the way? And I guess were you more interested in the writing side or the performing side of things, or both?
Both. I mean, I grew up writing poems. And I love to sing, and so, songwriting was my way of marrying those two passions. And, once I discovered, Elliott Smith, Daniel Johnston, The National, that world of music, that was just, unbelievable and so exciting to me. And so I think that's when I really decided that songwriting was the path for me.
There's a story out there that you had a very creative way of booking gigs when you were in college. Could you share that with our listeners? Because it was actually brilliant when you put it all together and you hear it.
Well, so I started wanting to play shows with the first iteration of my band when I was 17 and in my freshman year of college. And I just knew I had no draw. There was no reason that I should be playing, venues like Webster Hall, the studio where I wanted to be. And so I just had to fully lie, and I made up a fake manager named Dave Shanks, who does not and I did a fake signature and a fake voicemail that my boyfriend
That's great.
Did. So that was, the only way we got to play these shows that we did not deserve. But it was great because then we really had to haul ass to get people to the venues, and it was
it's amazing that it worked, and it shows you I guess what, I don't know if that's good or bad. It wasn't about the music, it was about this whole creation that you made. It's very impressive. I mean, that's a great story.
Thank you.
It's very funny. Let's talk about the album just a little bit. How long did the album take to write and record, and does the name of it have any meaning? I'd imagine it does.
Yeah, it took, I wrote it over the course of 2 years. I started writing it, the last 2 years were the first where we were touring more than we weren't. So that was the most, the space that was the most conducive to creativity for me in terms of writing. So I got probably the most done in that context. But and then I worked with a lot of people. There was a long process of trial and error working with people who I didn't totally connect with. And then I just felt the most honest around my friends. And so I ended up getting to do it with my friends in Minneapolis, and it's best case scenario writing environment. The Baby is just a way I refer to myself. When my friends will leave the room, I'll be like, who's going to watch the baby? I don't ever want to be left alone.
You've grown up in a kind of an entertainment environment your entire life, and you've kind of seen it all come together. There's actually a song on the record, you've grown up around show business, that you address in the final song. Is there something in the movies? And you directed the video for that, starring Maya Hawke from Stranger Things, Charlie Plummer. Imagine you guys are friends, and is that how they got involved with the project?
Yeah, they're friends of mine and incredible actors, and so I was so excited to have them part of that.
What was it like directing your friends? Is that something you want to do more of, or?
Absolutely. I mean, they were like a dream to work with because we're just close enough that I could be honest with them. And they, Maya actually helped conceptualize the video a lot, and she and I workshopped a lot of ideas together. And she sort of like helped guide me in the co-directing role,
Yeah.
because she's been in that position a million times. So it was so nice to have her.
Not to get too serious, but that song itself addresses your relationship with the late actress Brittany Murphy, who sadly passed away at such a young age. What was your relationship, if I can ask, with her?
I was super young, so I don't have a lot of like direct memories with her.
Yeah.
But she and my mom were really close, and I just remember that was the first time that I like acknowledged the injustice in the entertainment industry, and that I couldn't make sense of her death really as a kid, and I know my mom couldn't either, and so that was just something I thought a lot about, like in regards to that world growing up.
Another video that you put together that I thought was impressive was for the song Big Wheel. Kind of like a TikTok, but you put out these animated dancers and it's kind of freaky looking actually when you first watch it. It's very creative. How did you come up with the concept for it?
That was also my friend and my drummer is Noah Raukwerk, and he and I had been trying to put a video together for a long time, and he was like, my friend is a genius with this animation program, and like, let's just throw something together, quarantine style, and see what happens. And it turns out his friend had never used this program in his life.
Whoops.
Best case scenario, because I wanted it to be super weird and disorienting, and so
it's very cool. It's very creative. You kind of merge like different worlds, which is really impressive.
Thank you.
It's very fun to watch. You mentioned too, and I've heard other interviews with you, that you take basically when you were growing up, you were really attracted to dissecting lyrics, and you mentioned poetry and other things from your favorite artists. What's it like to have your fans now dissecting your lyrics online? Because the songs are very personal for you. What's it like to have them kind of pouring over them in Reddit right now, listening to you? It's got to be a little bit different.
It's crazy. I mean, that's my favorite thing to see. My songs are totally autobiographical and, based on my life, like sometimes even full like transcripts of my and experiences. But the coolest thing for me is to see different interpretations of that and like seeing people relate that to their own stories and their own life in some way. Like there's nothing cooler to me.
You do allow yourself to explore very vulnerable situations with your songs. And I imagine it isn't easy to do. Has there ever been a time where you kind of wanted to take a song back or kind of bury this one, so to speak?
Yeah, the only thing I get nervous about is I never want to exploit someone else's experience. My intention is always to be as vulnerable and honest as possible, and that feels comfortable for me in my songwriting. But I try to be really careful about being cautious of the stories that other people maybe don't want to tell and about their own lives. So, the only time I've had regret is when I felt like I've maybe talked about someone else's experience.
Like, whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to. My bad. You include your grandmother singing to you at the start of the record. How'd you decide to start with that? That's something very personal, but obviously her influence on you musically certainly has to shine through.
Yeah, I was sitting with my friend, writing that song sort of in the middle of the night, and I was like, I want to start this out. I knew that was going to be the opening song, and I wanted to start off with something that represented like my formative experience. And I just found this voicemail, which was the last that my grandmother had sent me before she died. So I was like, I think there's nothing more like telling of my experience as a kid than that, probably. So I just wanted her on there in some way.
No, it's really nice. It's your debut record too, and it's kind of you're kind of just starting out, literally, with all of it, and to have her support, I'd imagine, for everything, and it's just a nice way to pay tribute to her as well.
Yeah, it felt like an introduction, like she was introducing me in some way.
You grew up around acting in Hollywood. Do you have any acting aspirations, or?
I tried it. A lot of my friends are actors, and I have so much respect for it. I think I'm just not very good at it, and there's something about being able to tell my own story that's a little more exciting to me too.
I could see that. You really want to do everything. You want to write it. You want to star in it. You want to do everything to kind of control the narrative, I'd imagine. Yeah. Curious what you've been up to during quarantine. Have you been in New York the entire time, or?
I've been in New York and Nashville. I've been sort of going back and forth because my boyfriend's in Nashville. So I've just been like, the first 3 months here were really bleak and scary, so I needed to get out of here. But now it's a lot better. It's a lot easier to be here.
It's slowly. It's almost like it's like not back to normal, but there are moments where you think it is. So you're like, all right, it's okay, and then you throw on a mask and you're like, all right. It's an interesting time, that's for sure. Was the record done before this whole thing started, or? When did you wrap it up?
We finished it in January.
Okay.
So like just a couple months before everything went down.
Curious what you've been up to. Have you been writing during quarantine and this whole time? Or what kind of have you been doing to kind of pass the time? Because clearly, I'd imagine you probably had a tour planned and everything, and now it's kind of got to be kind of difficult where you can't do that.
Yeah, we had a couple tours planned, but so I've just been trying not to think about it, and like I write a lot of poems and I go for a lot of walks, and I've gotten to see friends in a trying to be responsible way. But it's mostly been like I really had to learn how to not socialize as much as I do.
No, it's not easy. Have you read any good books? Any recommendations or discovered any new artists that you want to share?
Ooh, I mean, I have been listening to Grace Ives a lot. I think he's amazing. I've been listening to the new OK Kaya record. I've been reading just a lot of poetry books and a lot of short stories and stuff. But I think, I highly recommend the OK Kaya record.
I'll have to check that out. It seems like you kind of start when you're thinking about songs, you start writing a poem and then kind of bring music into it? Yeah,
generally that's how it starts. And then I'll either call on my friends to help me like shape it into something that seems more like a song, or I rarely like start with a hook. I rarely intend to write a catchy pop song, but like I love those kinds of songs, so a lot of the time will ask my friends to help me stuff into that.
That's interesting. Now, you just put out this record that you worked so hard on for 2 years. Is it nice to I hate to say this because I feel like sometimes debut albums, in a way, you're almost not tired of the songs, but it's not who you are right now. The record was you 2 years ago. Are you looking forward to, are you kind of crafting the next record almost?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of coming to learn now that I'm always going to feel that way, like, because you can never, just the way that the industry works, you can never just release a song right as you're feeling it, which would be my, dream. I would love to perform songs when they're still relevant.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's just the writing process is always going to be exciting for me for that reason.
Very good. Well, hopefully we can get this thing taken care of, knock on wood, and hopefully head out on the road and do some shows of some sort. I feel like there'll be something going on in the new year where, whether it be, safe distance shows or maybe it's just live streams. But thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. Nice to get to know you a little bit. Congratulations on the record. We're chatting with Samia. The record, The Baby, is out now all over, streaming every platform. And, of course, Fit and Full is in the EHM New Music Bin. Congrats. Good luck with everything. And thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Our pleasure.